Hi, guys. Today we're talking about the art of being flexible. Many times we hear that it's very important to have your own principles, to be consistent. And I would like to discuss with you what is flexibility and when you need to be consistent and when the consistency might be counterproductive. What do you think, Victoria?
So this is a very interesting topic, and I would admit that flexibility is one of the most important features that a person may have to be successfully developed in life, and it is important to be consistent at some points, but I think that the feature that controls this balance between consistency and flexibility is the ability to always analyze what's happening around you. So, for example, if you're facing a situation where you need to choose to follow your rules, like to follow the set of mind that you have, or to maybe choose something different, something that you've never tried, you just need to think about it and to think whether it's going to work or not. So yeah, you should always analyze the situation and based on your knowledge, based on what you see, you need to decide.
What do you think, Peter? Do you have any universal set of rules that you follow?
I don't think I really have a set of rules that I follow. Like I don't really understand. Like what type of rules are we talking about?
Like, I would never do this. And if the situation presents itself, I will always take advantage of it. Like rules that actually make up your personality.
Well, yeah, then yeah, of course. Everybody has rules about things that they want to do, right?
So the flexibility is bending those rules.
Yeah.
And it's very important sometimes to, like Victoria said, to analyze the situation and decide from scratch what should be done, which rules should be adopted and which one should not. The pressure from the society is trying to make us persistent and consistent. A lot of times we are getting accusations in being non-consistent, abandoning our own principles. On the other hand, the same society is trying to make us flexible. We even say, thank you for being flexible. Thank you for giving this opportunity, blah, blah, blah. So where is this golden limit between flexibility and being consistent with your own rules? For example, Victoria, do you have any universal set of rules about your life?
Well, a couple of years ago, I would say yes. I have a strict set of rules that I follow. For example, I always complete my promises. For example, I never lie to anybody or something. But now I can tell for sure that I don't have any principles, that I don't have any set of rules that I follow every day of my life. The thing that I have is my knowledge and my experience, and also the skill to fastly make decisions. So I chose this strategy of life where I don't have any set of rules. I just face the situation and decide at the moment of the situation. because like this is the most productive way to live, in my opinion, because consistency, like there is no way there are some universal rules that you can follow in our society, like to make up your personality. Like for me, it's not a productive way of living.
Interesting. Let's take 10 commandments. Would you kill someone?
Depends on the situation. For example, if a person tells me, okay, you kill someone, nobody dies. Or if you don't kill anyone, I kill 100 people. In this situation, I would kill a person because it's utilitarianism. I don't know how it is spelled in English.
Would
So
you
in the-
steal?
Hmm?
Would you steal? Like take someone's things?
Depends on the situation. Again, like for example, if it comes to doing business, it is almost impossible to make money without stealing something, without lying about something. And you know, these are the some sort of consistent rules of business. But it may not appeal to my life. For example, I would not steal from a shop. But also depends on the situation. Like for example, if it comes to apocalypses and there are no cashiers at the shops and I just need some food, well, technically it is stealing, but you know,
Mhm.
you see, it always depends on the situation, and you always, like me personally, I always analyze these things, and it is really hard for me to create a certain set of rules because each person that I meet in my life, I create my own strategy of talking to this person. Yeah. Like, for example, and it also comes to each of my students, like when we are talking about some consistency and flexibility, like my method is that I'm not consistent at any method with all of my students. Like all the time I choose the very unique method for each of my students, so the way our learning will be productive.
100%. Yeah. Thank you for sharing this with us.
Mm-hmm.
Peter, what do you think about
Yeah, I don't know. This topic seems a little redundant because every rule is like some kind of leeway to it, right? There's always a situation where the rule becomes obsolete and then it would be changed.
it's obvious to you, it's obvious to Victoria, it is not obvious to millions of people.
What does that mean?
In mainstream culture, what Victoria just did is a bad thing. She's a bad person, very bad person.
Yeah, because I can imagine a situation where I would kill a person.
Not only this, she has no moral rules whatsoever. She can act only based on her totalitarian decisions. Like I was sitting here and shutting up because I'm the same thing. But since we are recording this and someone one day probably would listen to it, it is not obvious. It is not good from the point of view of the majority of people.
Yeah, but like it all comes from our schools and it is kind of hard to realize. Like I remember the day I was sitting at school and it was a social studies lesson and like I was very, very small, like I was about, I don't know, 9 years old or something, and they were telling us, okay, this is good, this is bad. For example, if you cross the road on a green light, it is good. If you cross the road on the red light, it is bad. But I was thinking like, okay, yesterday I saw my mom, we were walking together and we crossed the street on a red light because there were no cars. And it is a quite common thing in Moscow to cross the road on the red sign if there is no cars around. And I thought like, okay, like in general, for most of people, for kids, it is a good rule. Like, yeah, it is good to cross the street only on a green light. But we did it in this very situation, and it doesn't make us bad people that we did it, because in this situation, it was the way to complete the crossing the road task. And then I realized that the words bad and good, if it comes to, for example, describing people, the moral principles, it doesn't actually make any sense, because all the time you need just to analyze the situation. But of course they teach us this, because this way it is quite it is easier to, for example, it is easier to control the people. Like if you know that there are such moral principles like not lying and etc., like the people's behavior become more predictable. So in this way, it's easier to communicate with them. It's easier to control them. But I am some sort of I don't know, unique person in this case, because it is kind of hard to predict what I will do. It is kind of hard to predict my mindset, my point of view, how I see the world, because I can't say that I'm, for example, this type of person. I can't say that I have this feature, that I'm a good girl, that I'm a bad girl, that I don't know, I'm funny or I'm sad, because all of those things, they are temporary. Like one day I might be like this, the next day I may be like this. So one day my opinion might be like this, the other day my opinion will be like this. And yeah, this is a bad
Then
thing.
who you are? Who
I don't
are you?
know.
Who is
Like
Victoria?
there is actually no answer to this question. Like I remember asking myself this question when I was 14, and I got really struggled, because like I was even crying when I was asking myself this question. Because firstly I was like, okay, I'm Victoria. Okay, what, like Victoria, like your mother gave you this name. It doesn't actually matter. It doesn't identify you. I was like, okay, I'm Victoria. I am clever. I am beautiful, and etc. But then I was like, okay, but yesterday you didn't answer this question on your math lesson. That means that you're not that smart. But like today you woke up and without any makeup. That means that not always you're beautiful. So basically there is no actual answer to this question, who you are, because you have just this moment of life, like the very now moment, and you can define yourself only at that very one moment, but you can't define yourself in general. Like, no way. It is not like there is no absolute definition of who you are.
That's great.
That's interesting because, you know, I feel like you could get farther than me on that topic there because if I ask myself those types of questions, my mind would just be blank. I wouldn't be able to come up with anything.
Boris, who you are? Who are you?
Who I am? Uh, wow. That's tough question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm some flexible system that tries to propagate itself and survive. That's the definition. Would you use the same definition about yourself?
I don't know. Like, well, I guess this is the most correct definition that I can come up with. Like, me is just like a system with some knowledge, a system with some experience, but I do not I do not rely on this knowledge and on this experience all the time, because sometimes I find myself in very like extraordinary situations, some new surroundings, and my experience and my knowledge cannot be used there. So it's like I'm a sponge that soaks something out of this world, and sometimes when they put their hand on me, I go.
They press you too hard, you
Yeah.
return whatever you
Yeah,
have absorbed.
yeah. So yeah, I think that's the most correct definition. I'm a sponge.
You're a sponge. Right.
SpongeBob seems to me like a wise cartoon. No.
Oh, he is very flexible, by the way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I think like the universal rule for this is that you just set some rules in some situations. So it's not like set of rules for your whole life, but you create some set of rules for some situations. For example, I have a friend and we have this set of rules. For example, we don't call each other idiots because it hurt ourselves. But there is another situation. Like I have a friend who I play games with, and when you play some games, like you always call your friend idiots because of this very situation, this very context, and in this situation you have another set of rules. So
Yeah.
and it must be flexible, because at some point you may change, or the friend of yours may change, and they're going to be like, okay, don't call me idiot anymore because now it starts to hurt me, and then you change this set of rules. So I guess that's how it may.
Here is a question. We all three of us sound like villains, like very bad people that are prepared to do despicable things if it suits us. And as I know, we are not bad people. So also what I can say, this approach is very rational, but I think that there are different levels of rationality. There is always a superior rationality to a lower level of rationality. Like, I can explain why I'm being not rational from the general point of view with this superior rationality. And that's where I find myself forgiving, being generous, being not offended when I would supposed to be offended, doing kind things. Like, even I've found, my theory about kindness, that actually benefits the one who is doing kind things, right? And this kind of superior rationality we can find in anything, because our mind is set to rationalize things, right? To make sense of everything. And probably we are not bad people because we actually somehow are honest with ourselves. Because most of so-called bad people, they are not honest even with themselves. They can insist on the fact that they are good, even though they do bad things. They have this special mechanism to justify. Doesn't matter what they do. And that creates a huge bias. And that's very often we can see in real villains and uh, murderers and some heads of state, they actually creating a certain picture around themselves. Within this picture, they see themselves as good human beings. And objectively, from the point of view any bystander, they are not good. What they do are, their deeds are awful. You know what I mean? But they are not actually honest with themselves because they have principles, Skrepa. They have these principles and they act according to these principles, even though if you run a test, there is nothing about these principles in whatever they do. But they live in this illusionary world where they think that they follow certain principles with this very strong mechanism of justifying, doesn't matter what. In our case, Victoria, me, and I think Peter too, right from the set up, we don't even trying to justify anything. Like I called myself, I'm just a adjustable system that is trying to propagate itself and trying to survive, right? It's quite a derogative form of evaluating oneself. It's quite a low start, right? What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, it just kind of takes out the personality that you have. I feel like rules and bending rules, I don't think that actually exist. I think there is experiences and using those experiences in different situations. Think about it, like when you're a baby and you first try to get up and then you fall over, you have that experience of you getting up and then falling over. And then the next time that happens, you do that same thing again, but you try to make it not as bad. I feel like it's the same way for morals and rules that we as humans, we are really social creatures, right? When we see somebody else in agony or in pain or in anything, right, in some kind of turmoil, we immediately we feel empathy or we feel, you know, something like that. So I feel like those like moral rules that were set, like for example, don't kill anybody, don't lie, don't steal, don't, those were kind of set as kind of like, you know, basic ideas for that. But I feel like those rules are built up and more structured with experience.
But the interesting thing is that we neither Victoria nor I actually killing anyone or actually stealing that much.
But that, but you saying if I would have had to choose, if I was at gunpoint and somebody told me to kill one person or I'm gonna go kill 100 people, if somebody would have told me about that, and without like the experience of knowing that, okay, 100 people, you know, 100 minus one, that's 99 to one, you know, it's a little bigger on the other side, without having that knowledge, you know, right? That sounds like I'm kind of going in
I wouldn't plot anything because many people are actually suicidal and they don't want to commit suicide because they don't want to do anything about it. But if the opportunity arises that you are at the gunpoint, they might say, oh, it's an opportunity, please kill me, no problem. And this can happen. It has to deal with the frustration, with a lot of things. So we don't know how we will react I even suspect that same people can react to same situation differently at different points of their lives or different points. Like, that's an interesting thing, eh? At 5 p.m. it happened to you and you reacted that way, and at 5:30 p.m. you can react differently. Or maybe it's about us, those flexible systems that at that point would evaluate things and jump right to the conclusion that in this situation, I would like to act that way and not another way. It
Yeah.
will be not rational, it will be irrational from the general point of view, but like we said, we're always looking for higher rationality.
Yeah, and actually, if you choose the strategy to make decisions instead of relying on your consistent principles, you should really be aware of the of your mind at the moment that you make this decision, because I know that they conducted a research. So they were looking at the judges, and the judges they were prisoners with the same, like almost the same cases, and they were making different decisions whether it was morning or the evening because they were tired. So yeah, you should really be
Before
aware.
dinner or after dinner.
Yeah, so you should
And this
really
is
be aware of your
this
process.
is awful. It says a lot about our justice system and objectivity and being equal facing the law. It's awful.
Yeah, so it's not only being aware of the situation and the knowledge and experience, but also the state of your mind at the moment. For example, I don't like talking to people when I'm kind of tired, because I know that if I need to make some decision or if I make some promises in different state of my mind, I can't do this. So I'd rather choose not to communicate with some people.
But you know what is interesting? If we go to GPT-4, it's acting like human. It is unpredictable how he will react. At one point, the very same request, it will react one way. Another point will react completely different. Even if in the same chat, you repeat the same question, it can act differently. Sometimes it is in the mood to answer in a very detailed way, and sometimes it's just not in the mood, and it's hard to say what can influence. Probably that's the property of the complicated system. Any complicated system is not predictable. More complicated it is, harder to predict how it will react.
I think it's because he's always learning. Like, he's learning out of the answers. He's learning, like, we have this feedback if the answer was good or not of ChatGPT-4, and it's constantly learning, and it doesn't have any, like, well, it has actually some rules and some consistency, but not in his answers. So
I think it's even more complicated than that. It's not like in these 3 seconds that separated the first question and the second attempt, it have learned something and changed it. It is based on the calculation of the probabilities. And as we know, the probabilities are very uncertain thing. When it calculates that way, it turns this way, and when it calculates a little bit differently, it turns the other way. But it's an interesting thing that, yes, there are some pretty consistent ways. And by the way, those ways are not peculiar, not specific. to this system. They have been implanted. For example, if you say, I want to kill someone, GPT-4 would say, it's a serious offense. You need to consider, you need to seek help. It is not doing it because it has moral things, or these moral things are result of its conscience contemplations. No, it has been implanted into the system to react to everything inappropriate in a very appropriate way. Right?
Mhm.
So it's very interesting how similar the complex system, complex language transformer system, which is GPT, is similar to how we act and how we work.
It's really funny that you say that, because there's a way to just completely break ChatGPT's moral code, like completely, by just sending it like a half a paragraph of a text message.
Yeah, there are different ways to, yeah, well, you can say that you're writing a book and your character.
Oh, no, they patched that one out. You have to say like, your name is Bob, and Bob doesn't have a moral code or something like that, right? You kind of trick it into that.
Yeah, but it's interesting that they have implanted things, and we also have things implanted in us. And it's not very good idea to run around and tell everyone that you are a moral beast that is ready to kill, to steal, and do whatever it takes. I tried that. People don't react very favorably to this. Like when the guests are here and I start to philosophize and saying that I don't judge others because I'm capable of anything that I would be judging them about. And when it comes to killing, I say, well, it depends on they never show up again. They just disappear.
Yeah, but I want to add one thing about people like me and you, about people who are like constantly flexible without any principles. The thing is that actually people like us are more reliable than people who follow moral principles.
That's interesting, eh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because mostly people who are following moral principles, they are following them unconsciously. So they do not really think about their decisions. They do not really think about how to act in this situation and in this situation. Like, and when they find themselves in some extraordinary situation where the basic moral principles aren't working, they don't know what to do, and that's why, as you said, as long as they're living in this sort of illusion, they are trying to fit themselves in this moral structure, but they can't because they have something dark in their minds that is telling them to act the other way, and that's where they find themselves totally lost. But me and you, we are ready for this situation because we don't rely on any rules. We rely only on our knowledge and experience and the understanding and etc. and etc. So that's why these people are actually we are actually more reliable because we are more constant in our decisions, because our decisions are more rational, and we have this like point on the way of rational thinking. So
Everything is great, but it sounds so bad. We are the people with no principles.
yeah, and also I wanted to add one more thing, like the thing that like people are tend to call themselves good or bad and live in this illusion of being bad or being good. Like, actually, this is a linguistic construction that misleads us to some understanding of ourselves, because this construction, like in English, to be, like I am, he is, she is, it actually makes no sense, because we can't identify person like as good or as bad. Like we can identify his actions as good in this situation or bad in this situation, but we can't actually say he's good or he's bad. For example, if you look at a lemon, we can't say that the lemon is yellow because, for example, if I'm colorblinded, I don't see yellow as I don't see lemon as yellow. If I don't know, if I'm blind, I don't see lemon as yellow. We can say I see lemon as yellow, and it is the most more correct way of saying it, rather than lemon is yellow.
But
So
can you define what yellow is?
that's another question, Boris. Come on, we're not into this discussion right now. Like, the same comes when we give some features to people. For
How
example,
would you explain to a blind person what yellow is?
no way to explain it. Like you need to experience it. So, and when you, for example, say Victoria is beautiful, like I claim that this statement has no sense. I can say I am beautiful. I see myself beautiful right now because, for example, I wear makeup. Because some people, they may claim that I'm not beautiful at this point of my life. They don't see me beautiful. So like the statements where we use the verb to be, they actually, like most of the time, they make no sense. But as long as we perceive them as making sense, we start to create this illusion. For example, if you always tell me that I'm beautiful, I start to believe that I'm beautiful. If you always tell me that I'm ugly, I start to believe that I'm ugly, even though the statement has no sense. And there is actually a man, I think his name is Alfred Korzybski or something like that, and he created the version of the English language without the verb to be, to avoid this sort of misunderstandings.
How would it sound?
Well, just like instead of using to be, for example, she is beautiful, it's like, I see you beautiful right now. Or instead of saying, I don't know, it is snowing, it's like, I see snow outside. So it's like not the statement, but just you express how you perceive the reality right now. And it's more correct way of expressing things.
All
Because
right.
it leads to less misunderstandings.
Yeah. Yeah. So we shouldn't say we have no principles. It seems like.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, and this like language structure without the verb to be, it actually leads us to this flexibility at all times, because it leads us to the total lack of opportunity to create any statements about anything. So we can't say I am reliable. We can say in this situation you can rely on me because I will do things that I told you that I will do.
Yeah, but there are so many factors that we cannot control. We can promise only that we have an intention to be reliable, but there's no way to promise that you will be reliable.
Yeah, that's true. But like, yeah, that's true, and that's why, for example, me, when I give some promises, I usually tell people like the circumstances in which this promise will be made. For example, okay, I promise you, so if this and this and this comes true, I will do this promise. Because, like, for example, if I die tomorrow, I'm sorry.
In my business, I always add weather permitting.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you think, Peter? Is it bad? Does it seem to you that not having the principles is the bad thing?
Is
To some extent, yeah. But
What are your principles?
well, I won't kill anybody. Not
Good.
yet, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, 10 Commandments seems to be a menu. You can choose. Click.
Which one did you want and which ones did you don't, right?
Yeah. So
Being flexible
being
is hard.
flexible, yeah, but what is bad about being flexible? There's nothing bad.
No.
Nothing bad being flexible. There's so many things are holding up. Like people want to be consistent. They want to live according to their principles. They, for example, they got offended. They don't want to talk to you. But the situation is like it's beneficial for both sides to talk and collaborate. But they want to be consistent and they will want to do this. I think it's no good. It's no good.
I mean, like, isn't the hope for consistency the thing that actually breaks all the marriages? Because like people think that the moment they put rings on each other's fingers is the moment when they like, I don't know, consistently decide on some things that they figure out about each other. But like people change, and their mood is changing, their life is changing, their mindset is changing, and the fact that people are not ready to talk and find and constantly find the ways to some agreements, like people are not ready that this consistency will break, and it will definitely break once in their lives. And that's why they are not ready for it. But we should be ready. We should talk to each other. We should always seek for some sort of agreement. For example, for now, we agree on this. But if something changes, I will tell you and we will find another agreement. Okay?
It's like the vows for those who getting married. I promise to be with you as long as I want to be with you, and when I change my mind, I will let you know.
Yeah. But like people got extremely offended because of this, but this is the reality. Like when you start the relationship, when you are getting married, you hope that everything will be consistent, but nobody can promise you that. And
That's
instead
a
of
very interesting issue because there are so many bad relationship between the exes, like the former spouses, and they're usually based on the consistency. If I divorce someone, we need to be there should be bad relationships because it has to be, right?
yeah, but
Also
I mean,
interesting how people now change. Are we official dating? Are we dating officially? And they change the status in Facebook in relationship, married, single. It's so interesting, eh?
but for me, it actually makes any sense because, like, what's the actual difference between friendship and being in relationship? There is no actual difference. It's just in our minds. It's about some boundaries that we have in our minds. But we, as long as like usually people they don't talk to each other, they don't know these boundaries. Like they don't know like what does it actually mean to be in relationship? Like does it mean that, for example, if it comes to cheating, like usually different people think differently about cheating? For example, for some people, to kiss someone on the cheek is cheating, but for someone, doing anything is not cheating. But as long as people do not talk to each other and they are not trying to get to know this sort of things, it leads to misunderstandings. because they have some set of rules in their minds and they think that this set of rules applies to the whole world, but it's not.
Hmm. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I think like that sometimes, where I think that the whole world thinks like me.
Mhm. A lot of people won't agree with us. They would say that we are bad people. They will do the same things. They will do the things that we would never do. But they won't talk about it. They wouldn't agree that they are capable of doing this, and they would talk about the principles and other stuff and things like that.
And then you just ask why. Like, he's telling you, I'm not gonna do this, like, I will never do this. And you just ask why, and they're broken at this moment. Like, really, why?
Yeah.
Because they
Anyway,
haven't ever thought
yeah.
about it.
So then we are coming to the point that self-realization, like self-analysis, is the most important thing. And then the way how we communicate the things, because if we would communicate these things openly, it's unacceptable by the majority around us.
Like, I have a list, like when I am about to get into some relationships, I have a list of about 200 questions to ask. Like, for example, what is cheating for you? Like, do you like doing this? What don't you like to do? What do you think about this and this? Like, just to get to know the
But
person.
they would probably honestly lie.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. But this is the only thing that I can do. Like,
So you send the questionnaire
yeah,
with 200 questions.
yeah.
All right. Okay, so it's an art of being flexible and not get caught.
Yeah, so sort of.
Yeah, hopefully nobody watches this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.